Hello everyone, Michelle here from the Creative Cove. Thanks for joining me today. Today's a fun video on using up labels. I did a video on this a few years ago and just flipping through some old journals, and I thought it'd be fun to do these again. So I have just a pile of these peel and stick ready to use labels, and I really like these ones. They're nice and thin and tall, so you can have a lot of fun creating some compositions in here. So I'm using some vintage photo ink, and I'm just going to make them look a little bit older and really kind of grunge them up. And then I'll be doing some botanical sketches on here, some very loose sketches and stamping, and just building up these ready to use ephemeras for journaling, artwork, scrapbooking, whatever it is you want to use them for. And I like to do several pages at once, just kind of mass make these and then have them in my little repertoire for easy decorating. So once I've got a layer of ink down, I'm going to start some stamps. This is a kind of illegible stamp that I use, handwriting stamp. I got it off Amazon years ago. If you follow me, you'll know I use this in almost every video I do. It's getting a little repetitive, actually, how often I say that, but I do love this. It just gives it a nice kind of texture and a bit of a romantic vintage vibe to it. So the stamps I'm using today are, other than that one, and my own carved stamps are from Tim Holtz. I believe they are, I'm not sure, 100% sure what collection they're from, because they're just in a tin and I just pulled them all out. But they are Tim Holtz, and they're primarily using numbers today, and there's the tin there, a couple of different worded ones. And then there's some nice ones in there that have this vintage kind of cursive writing. So you'll see I don't use the block. I'll just use parts of that stamp. And I do that quite often when I'm stamping. It's just a technique I like to use. So I don't even know where I'm going to be drawing things at this point. So you might be wondering why I'm bother stamping first if I still have the focal point to do. And for me, it's all about creating layers and textures. So a lot of this kind of gets subdued in the end anyways. And I know that I'm going to be using black ink. So here I am to draw, so here I am using some black ink to stamp as well. So this is the one I'm talking about with the using just a part of the stamp. I really like the old kind of textured writing in here, and I'm just adding a smidge of it. So I'm not using the whole stamp. So I don't have a huge collection of stamps, so I have to use what I've got and use them in different ways that work for the projects that I am working on. So just an idea, if you don't have a big collection of stamps, how you can just use parts of it to create these layered textures. So when I'm stamping these, I do tend to think of this as a full page and kind of even out the stamping as a full page. But in the end, these are all going to be individual layers. So when I start putting the focal point in, the sketching in, I will consider that. I'll start thinking about that and focusing on the single layer and adding some details to it to make the sticker itself cohesive and make sense, if that makes sense. So here is just a regular household pen, and I am just slowly just building up some shapes. And you'll see I always put a curve to my botanicals. I like to create a little bit of movement in these sketches. And I'm just starting off simple, nice and loose, holding my pen way at the back and putting in a little bit of interest here. And each one is going to be individually drawn, but they're all going to look a little different. And I just go by feel a lot of time. So here I am, I'm going to tuck a leaf behind. So you can leave it as simple as you like, but here I want to add a little bit of depth to my drawing, and I'm going to put a leaf behind the other leaves and create a little dimension. And all I do is break the line and darken up the leaf behind. So I'm going to repeat the process on this side by putting another one behind. You'll see it breaks and then reappears at the top. And I just color it in and it just visually pushes it to the back. Some cute little tricks to kind of upgrade your sketches. I also use stamps in this, and I'll show you in a little while after I do my sketches. So if you find the sketching a little intimidating, or you only have so many labels and you're scared that your sketching won't work out quite the way you want them to, of course you can use stamps. So this is just another loose sketch I'm doing here, keeping the flow of the pen moving and just feeling out thinner little leaves here. And what I like to do is just change the shape a little bit from plant to plant, but still creating that flow of movement with the shapes of the leaves and the bend in the stem. Again, you can make this as elaborate or simple as you like. It's up to you, but I really love the result of these, and there's nothing more wonderful than building up your sketchbook, decorating your journals, and then having these fun peel away homemade stickers ready to go. And what a fun happy mail this would be as well. And cheap. These are thrifted labels, so they didn't cost me hardly anything. So this one, again, I'm going to have a little bit of curve, but I'm going to change the shape of the leaf. Going to make this tip a little rounder to start and go by feel and see how I feel about it. Maybe I'll make them pointy in the end, I'm not sure. But at this point, I just want to try a little something different. I'm always paying attention to the negative space within the label as well. I want to make sure that it's balanced. So if I only put these 3 leaves in, then I would add some darker texture of some stamp at the bottom so that the weight is even. Balance is important when it comes to your little sketches, even when they're this tiny. You want the whole thing to be balanced in color and in subject matter. So I'm putting another leaf behind that one. And I'm just cleaning the tip of this pen. It seems to want to leak on me and deposits a little bit too much ink. It's just a cheap dollar store pen. So that negative space at the bottom was a little too much for me, so I added another leaf. And I'm just sketching. It's so relaxing. Just sketch your stem and go for it. In this one, I decide to make a little bit more interesting leaves. A little bit interesting as in a little more dimension. So this leaf I will put as if it's twisted and curved over on itself. So you can always slow my video down there and see exactly how I draw that. And it just gives a little bit more form to the plant without spending hours and tons of time really working on tons of detail. Again, filling in some negative space and a little curve, a little interest to my leaves. I'm not doing any flowers. I'm just focusing on some organic movement and textures in these little labels. And you can see I'm always starting with a curve. I feel like I don't know where I'm going until I do that first curve. This one I decide to put a leaf right in the front, so the others are kind of flat with a little bit of dimension. This one, the leaf cuts right in front of the stem, and again adds a little bit more dimension to the plant. So these are drawn in real time. I didn't speed up or slow anything down. I want to show you just how casual a sketching this can be and just how much fun and relaxing it can be. I hope you give them a try. whether it's just on a scrap piece of paper or you have some labels you want to use up. This is a really fun way of doing it. And personally think it adds a really beautiful touch to a journal. So the bottom, I'm going to use stamps just to show you a little diversity here. Like I said, in case sketching is not your cup of tea, pull out some stamps that you might have. So these ones I'm going to be using, I think I'm going to use one in this video, but these pink ones are all my homemade stamps, and I have some videos on how I do those as well. But something about a homemade stamp is really kind of rustic and really organic shapes that I carved here. They're very rough. I think this one I'm using is maybe the third stamp I've ever carved. And it doesn't really mimic any kind of leaves or flowers, but there's just something I really love about this stamp. I've used it for years. So I use it every time I think I'm going to stamp some flowers or something, I will use this stamp. So even if you don't have your own stamps, I mean, you can go ahead and carve one. You remember the old potato stamps we used to do. Anything. Nowadays, I saw actually on Pinterest, I saw somebody carve out of an old meat tray, you know, the styrofoam that meats come in, like ground beef and stuff. So they used a what's that tool called where you push things in and kind of mark it. My goodness, I can't think of what it's called right now. Embossing. So you can emboss it and draw what you want and kind of push down the part that you don't want to print with your embossing tool, just this round little tool. And it created a stamp. It was so cool. I might give that a try. So I'm just using the vintage photo and some black here just to show that you can use any colors you want, obviously. Reusing the stamp a few different times, kind of reintroducing it over in and out of the label. So like I said, I start thinking individually on these labels now. So my stays on is starting to dry up. It's not as wet as it once was. I've used quite a lot of it. I use it all the time, actually. It's one of my favorite inks since I bought it probably 6 months ago now. Now I can't live without it. So again, just taking part of the stamp and putting it in and kind of filling in a little bit of that negative space. So now I'll look overall and think, do I want to add anything else? And I'm thinking I could use a little bit more stamping. So I'm going to try this textured stamp. I end up not liking it. I find it ends up being a little bit too busy for my taste. But you could use bubble wrap. You could use anything that will print and leave a texture behind. Again, if you don't have fancy stamps. And that bucket there is pretty much all the stamps I have. I may have about 5 or 6 other stamps put in my drawer, but I rarely use them. So this is another stamp where I'm just using that fun cursive writing in the middle. And this is a Tim Holtz stamp. But I really like the old cursive writing, and I'm throwing it in. So I'll decide, do I need to add some black? Do I need to add some brown? Of course, you can do this in any color. You can add water droplets and create texture on your labels. I'm just going to go with the bold number here. I feel like it needs a little something else on mine. It's easy to go too far and too much, but you know, that's the point. You just experiment, have fun with it. Worst case scenario, you tear them up and they become collage paper or snippet paper, or whatever you might want to use them for. I find the number just adds a little something extra to each one of these. I think they turn out quite nice. I'm quite happy with them. And then I stick one in the journal just to show you how cool they look and how easy, once you've completed them, how easy they are. So it's taken me less than 10 minutes to make these. That's including the sketching. And I have, how many? I have 10 of these ready to go. So always keep an eye out in your thrift shop for some fun used labels. I'm just grabbing my journal here. I only have the 2 journals left that I keep for myself, and they're getting pretty full, so I'll probably end up having to start another one. Just for myself. Usually I make journals as part of my videos here, and then I end up putting them in my surprise Etsy boxes. And this one I keep though. So see how easy that was? Just love that. So much fun. And just, you've sketched it. You've made it all by yourself. You can sign it. You can do whatever you like with it. But it's just instantly decorated, that page. Here's some other ones that I've completed, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope this inspires you to give sketching a go. Take care, everyone. Bye.